Hey guys, I hope you don't get mad at me for skipping out on Arizona when it's starting to get hot. And I hope you don't get mad at me from recording from the beach in Hawaii or Tahiti, or I don't know where that is actually. I don't know where I am actually. Um, hey, I wanted to give you guys a little bit more detail about persuasive writing. I'll try to keep the video down to about 10 minutes. Don't know if I'll be successful in that. Um, First of all, by now, I hope that you've already looked at the assignment in which I asked you for 4 topics that you're interested in and narrowing down those 4 topics to one topic. I hope you've done all of that. And in some cases, it may take some more narrowing down. I wanted to talk about first. Well, first of all, let me share the screen. I've got some number of steps that I wanted to go over. Let's see. I'm not a pro at this yet, so give me a minute here. Okay, there we go. You should be able to see my screen now. And I wanted to go to one of the documents that I sketched out here. Um, as you can tell, I've got as the steps, 1, narrow down the topic, and that would involve number 1, narrowing down from a few topics that you're interested in, and also maybe narrowing down a certain topic. Especially it makes the research a little bit easier. If you're just looking for climate change, that can be a pretty big topic and probably get you 20-some thousand articles about it. Number 2, do some preliminary research, see what's out there, jot down a few things. Let me skip quickly to something I did here in another document. This is a link to an article that I found that I thought would be useful to me. And what I would do with this, if you want to be a little bit more formal about it, type out the name of the article and the author and so forth, and then put in your link. At this point, I just put in that link, and my cursor's right here. I'll paste in another link and another one, and just go over a few things, like I said, preliminary, so that I can, figure out what I'm up to with the essay. And at this point, number 3, I need to be selective, and I need to toss out a bunch of those articles and just keep the few that will be relevant to what I want to say on the topic. Number 4 is to sketch out a structure for the essay. Now, partly this depends on what kind of essay you're writing. Really, I see us having 3 different choices here. It could be a topic where it's a yes or no proposition. I guess a good example of that would be the death penalty. Yes, I believe in the death penalty for capital crimes. No, I do not believe in the death penalty for any situation. I guess there could be a gray area in that one. Yes, I believe in the death penalty for certain crimes. Then comes the gray area type of essay where you might be, well, let's take gun control as one. That's actually a pretty big area, because I have a spectrum about this big, and on one end of it is everybody should be required to buy a gun. Everybody should be required to carry a gun. And then on the other end of the spectrum was, no, let's do a Great Britain here. Nobody has guns. Not even the cops have guns. So we got a lot of stops in between those two. And so that would mean that there's a lot of gray area. What does gun control mean? Personally, I might say, that I'm in favor of outlawing AK-47s, of licensing all guns, things like that. So there could be various stops, like I said, in the middle. that might change the way you think of your essay. And finally, a good persuasion essay might have one to do with involving solutions to a problem. I mean, that is a debatable topic because some people would have solutions that are different from other people, and some people would question the degree of your solution. Oh, no, 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 that's going too far. You can't do that. So a good example, I think, there would be, what are the solutions to climate change, to global warming? How, you know, how do those take place? And so, you know, there may be some of the solutions that I have that would be objectionable to others. I'll give you an example of that in a minute. Number 5 down here is refine the research. Be prepared with certain evidence and quotes for certain paragraphs. So this is actually, you know, like I said, copy and pasting links, and also typing a few things about where you think this would be good in your essay. Number 6 is begin the writing. Let's get going. Number 7 is do your citing as you go along. I've talked to you guys about this before. You don't want to wait till the end and then all of a sudden think to yourself, oh no, you know, those statistics I used in paragraph 3, I have no recollection of where I got those. I don't know. So you have to spend hours going back to find out where. So do the citing as you go along. Number 8 is consult my checklist. I'll have a checklist for you, and do your editing of the essay. Some of that editing may be based on the checklist. I didn't give him what he wanted in this area. I better work on that. Number 9 is to proofread for your final draft, and number 10 is to turn it in. Let me refer to another document here, sort of a sketch outline for a couple of different possibilities. And what I want you guys to remember is, you know, you may want to, this is probably going to be a much, much, much less sophisticated essay than you would do, let's say, in your senior year of college, university, or maybe you're going to go to graduate school and you're writing a lengthy paper in graduate school. It's going to be much different. But I think for a basic English 101, English 102 type of research paper, this will do the trick. And I don't shy away, and I ask you guys not to shy away from being really basic in your topic sentence. For example, you'll see right here that I have a topic sentence for paragraph 2 that starts with, one reason I believe, okay, and state your opinion, is that, you know, another reason I believe, state your opinion, is that, yet another reason I believe, and finally I believe, state your opinion, because blank, blank, blank. Now, I think I made you aware of this, but let me make sure. We do have to have some refutation in the essay. Refutation, think of this as the basic definition for refutation. I'm going to bring up one thing or several things that are a problem that my opposition would have with my opinion, and then I'm going to answer those points. That part of it is really important. I have to answer those points. That's the refute part. Refute means, the verb refute means have an answer for. Mr. Smith, you're giving me a D in the course. That's not right. You said that I didn't pass this essay. I refute that. I have this, you know, here's my grade. You said that I didn't turn in this paper and this paper and this paper. I refute that. Here they are. You know, you see evidence. So refute is to have an answer for. Now the refutation in your paper can come as the paragraphs go along, or it can come as a separate paragraph, which is usually the second to last paragraph before you get to the conclusion. So you'll see in what you see on the screen here, that number, how many paragraphs did I give this? 7. So paragraph 6 starts with, now, many people may not believe that, put in your opinion. However, what they need to remember is that blankety blankety blank. You know, you're given an answer to that. Maybe you bring up another point that your opposition would make. Give an answer for that. You never want to have a paragraph where you say, here's what the other side thinks. Number 1, number 2, number 3, period. That's the end. Why would you bring up things that your opposition would say unless you have an answer? Because having an answer helps to prove your point. And then, of course, we have a concluding paragraph. Now, another possibility I put down in this document is one in which, let me go back to my climate change solutions paper, one in which you would talk about how to deal with a certain problem. So you have an intro in which the thesis here is what we need to do. You know, have a statement about what we need to do about the problem. Let me take climate change again. So one step in taking care of the problem of climate change is, so this is paragraph 2, and you know, I mixed up the phrasing a little bit so that I don't start it the same each time, but basically each time, each body paragraph is saying, here's one thing you do, here's another thing you do, here's another thing you do. So I get to the, did I give this one 7, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Yeah. So when we get to paragraph 6 here, here's the refutation part again. Now, many people will take issue with some of the steps I've mentioned. For example, you know, they may not believe that, you know, or, you know, in the case of climate change, one big one I hear is that a lot of people think that if we go away from fossil fuels and we go to wind energy and solar energy, that we'll lose a lot of jobs. And I heard just the other day on TV that no, that's not the case. Actually, we would be making more jobs if we had more solar and more wind power. And so, you know, that might be something I bring up in that refutation paragraph is, you know, they say that, you know, a lot of jobs will go away and that people will be unemployed. And then, you know, I would bring up the idea that, well, actually, there are a lot of jobs that could happen in solar and wind power and geothermal and, you know, things like that. And then comes my conclusion. Now, like I said, this can be happening as the essay goes along. So in paragraph 2, if I said one step in taking care of the problem is for everybody in their household to become more energy efficient. And, you know, toward the end of that paragraph, maybe I say a lot of people think that this is unrealistic for the average person to be able to do anything. But statistics show that in Reichsnacht, Germany, you know, so many people transition to CFL bulbs and blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm just making something up here, but you get the idea that, you know, I bring up what the opposition would say about my solution, and then I show how that is not correct, that it's actually the opposite. So even when we're doing our research, by the way, we need to keep in mind, what would the other side say? What would their problems be with what I'm saying in my paper? And that way I can kind of save that up and I can actually bring up their points so that I'm able to refute their points and make my essay that much better, actually. A good persuasion or argument paper is not going to ignore the other side. It's kind of like debate. If anybody was familiar with the idea of debate club or something like that in high school, you know, there's two sides to it, right? There's, you know, here's our team. We take this side of it. Here is Franklin High. high school's team, and they take the other side of it, and we're debating back and forth. So that's the idea of refutation, where you have an answer to something somebody brought up. Just checking my list here. Okay, let me go to research for a second. Let me get rid of this if I can. And let me go, you see that I have a lot of tabs up on the screen. That's because I was doing some preliminary stuff in advance. Let me go to first the databases for the college library. Let me show you really quickly how I got there. You need to get into the home page for South Mountain, and then you need to scroll down to library right here on the left, and it's going to take you to this. Now, you can do something like this in one search. And that would be, doing that would be, I think, if you have a really specific topic. Because let me show you what happens when I just type in climate change. First of all, I'm going to have a lot of choices. Holy cow, 5,500,000 choices. But secondly, it's given me a lot of books. Well, I'm writing a like 1,200 word page, a 1,200 word essay for Professor Smith in his English composition class, just so I can get through that dang class and just get on to whatever I need to do in college. And so you're not going to want to read whole books for this paper, right? That sounds like something, speaking of graduate school, that's something that you'd want to do in graduate school, and maybe really get familiar with the topic. So you're not going to do that. Let me show you some of the more popular databases. Here, you saw me click on databases. Academic OneFile is a good one. There's another one called CQ Researcher here. I'm going to show you some of the narrowing down that I did as we go along. There's one, this would probably be a really good one. I think it's under P for pros and cons. For opposing viewpoints right here. Opposing viewpoints, Gale in context. And that might give you some good articles where, obviously persuasion essay, opposing viewpoints is what it's all about. So that may give you some good articles to look at for opposing viewpoints. The two sides to the issue. Kind of repeating myself here, sorry. I want to back up for a second. I don't want to completely discourage you from just going to Google or any of the other Bing or any of the other search engines, and maybe starting that way. Now you can see at the top of this page, what I had written in there was how to fight climate change. So I started with climate change, and this is how it goes sometimes. You kind of narrow it down for yourself as you go along. I started with climate change, and then I thought, what about climate change solutions? And I did that, and then one of the articles said about something about fighting climate change, and I thought to myself, fight, okay, fight, that's a good word. Fight climate change, how to fight climate change. So I came up with a bunch of articles here. I think one of them is this one. No, this was the one I thought, well, one of the ways, I'm thinking about that argument against me. Well, what about the jobs? What about the jobs? And so I'd written in jobs, climate change, and I got to an article called Renewable Energy Job Boom Creates Economic Opportunity as Coal Industry Slumps. And it's fairly recent. I think it's, yeah, there it is, 2019. So I thought, boy, that sounds like a good one. It sounds like, if I were reading along in this, there's some good stuff that I could highlight and, make sure that, Okay, this sounds like paragraph 5. I could use that in. It doesn't seem to be overly long. I do encourage you to look at the length because, you know, especially if you go into something like CQ Researcher here, you might find some articles that are not only really long, they are so long that they have what is called an abstract at the beginning. An abstract is usually kind of a paragraph that tells you what you know, they were looking at, in some cases what their findings were, and so forth. And so because it's 18 pages long, they feel like they need to give you an abstract so that you know what it was all about. CQ Researcher, by the way, does have an advanced search. Let me click on that for a second. And you'll see that one of the things you can do in the advanced search is, I'm trying to wave my cursor here in front. By the way, if anybody knows of any clever looking cursors, would you email me that? So this one says date range. So I could put in, I usually just put in January, and I usually just skip the day part. And, you know, maybe I don't want anything more than 10 years old. So I would say January 2010 to January 2020, or actually it's April now, isn't it? So maybe I'd put April 2020. And then let's see, there's one of the ones I had, new energy sources create jobs. Click on that. Now, sometimes you are going to find some that pick out certain words in your search, and it just has absolutely, the new arms race, obviously this has nothing to do with climate change. I'm going to toss that out. So you know, some of the other ones just a little too specific. There's the Mars mission. I don't know what that has to do with climate change. So, you know, just kind of scroll through those. I think this is mostly, you could put it in the step of the preliminary research. Here's a short one I found called Millennials, should be Millennials, shouldn't it? Are galvanizing to fight climate change. And I think one thing that attracted me to it was that it was only 547 words. Not that you would want to discard anything that is long, but, you know, if I can get something good for my essay that is in a shorter context than, let's say, 20,000 words, then I'm certainly going to do that. Let me kind of just click through some of the other ones that I found. Okay, we did that one already. Gale research new tool to help fight global warming developed. And this one is 2004, but, you know, still within reasonable. I think as far as climate change go, we probably wouldn't want to do anything, you know, past 2000, not in the 1990s or 1980s, certainly. And so, you know, this all comes under my heading of preliminary research, and I'm going to save some of these and I'm going to discard some of them. And, you know, then I'll be closer to the point where I've refined some of my research. So this is the kind of thing, the reason I brought up the research in the library is this is the kind of thing I like to take students to the library. One of the librarians is really good at giving a sort of virtual tour of these sites. I wanted you to get a taste of that. Obviously, I won't give you a quiz on this, but I think it'll be helpful to developing your essay. I'll bet you anything I'm coming to more than 10 minutes here for this video. Sorry about that, guys. So anyway, I think I've hit most of the key points. If you have any questions about anything that I've covered, be sure to let me know. And now, oh, they're starting a volleyball game over there, so I think I'm going to go join that. I think it's a 6 feet social distancing volleyball game. So I'll see you later. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. And if you have any questions, let me know.